Hi and welcome back to the channel. On today's video I'm going to be doing a review of the Loxone door intercom and covering whether this thing's really worth £700 or just over £1,000 if you add the numeric keypad that can go with that as well. So as some of you may have seen on the other videos that I've shown, some of the choices we've made around Loxone, at the beginning I decided against or at least deferring my decision to go with the Loxone intercom, partly based on that price and on the functionality and trying to decide what I wanted. So I'd had a Ring Pro doorbell previously, had been very happy with the performance of that as a door intercom and a security camera. Didn't necessarily like the subscription that you had to pay, and struggled in the previous house to connect that to an ordinary doorbell input. So obviously if I can, somewhat flexible with Loxone, that I can have a digital input as long as I can get a trigger somehow from the door station. So I've been looking at a number of different options, certainly looking at Ring again, so they're from between £100 £200 depending on which ones you buy, and also the Ubiquity G4 doorbells in its various iterations, because we use Ubiquity here for our networking technologies. And the challenge with those was really a balance of the functionality and the ease of integration with Loxone. So the Loxone intercom is physically a really nice design. So if you're familiar with Loxone, it's very similar to the Loxone Pure Touch switches that we have in the house. So it's got a lovely glass front, simple design. It's available in two colours, so in this white colour or an anthracite. Very minimalistic. It just has the one sensor for the doorbell, which is illumination on there, the camera, which is a decent resolution, and a proximity sensor. So that can detect not as much as a sensor in the house would, but maybe a couple of meters away. When that detects motion or a person nearby, it lights up the doorbell lamp, and I think starts to kick off the communication with the app, so that when someone does press the bell, it's actually very, very quick actually to bring the application up. So quite impressed with that. Connectivity wise, you'll see the connectors in a moment. It's powered over Ethernet, so it's a network periphery device. So you need to run Cat5, Cat6, whatever, to the door station. So obviously there are some options with Ring, for example, where it can be battery powered. So that, in my case, did limit me to installing it where I could reliably get a network cable through to it. Interesting integration with Loxone. It also has Loxone Tree here. So if you did fit this with the NFC Touch keypad, that I've actually got one of those inside for turning on the alarm system, you can put that outside without having to run a separate Tree connection to it. I have had some people say they'd still run Tree separately to that, because obviously if there's a power issue or a network issue or anything and this drops the device, you might not be able to unlock the front door if you're using that sort of integration. And that sensor that we've got on here can be used to trigger anything in Loxone, so it can trigger lighting or other events outside. The other nice piece of integration that it has is it links straight through into the audio server in Loxone. So we've got speakers in just about every room in the house here, so we can set what sound we want, what volume we want, which rooms that's going to come on in, all integrated into the Loxone system. And we can also very simply add functionality that when we open up the intercom app, we can unlock the front door, open the garage door, those sorts of things. So super, super, super easy to set up. So really nice device. With VAT, buying this device, I think it's about £550 for this without VAT. This and a bracket is just a shade over £700. So it's not an inexpensive device, but it does have that simplicity of integration into the Loxone ecosystem. So what else is good about it and against those others? So with Ring, certainly you need to have a subscription for the video recording of that. Ubiquity, you're probably going to be running a Ubiquity NVR or other NVR to record that on something locally. I don't think it does it in the door station. Happy to be corrected on that. On this device there's an SD card inside this device which records it, so this can operate with no cloud connection. the same as Loxone and everything else in the house. We don't need to have a cloud service or a subscription for it to operate. So I like the fact that we have that. I think the key thing to think about this in comparing with the other ones is this is what it says on the tin. It's an intercom. It's a pretty good intercom. It's not a security camera. So it will only record video when the doorbell button is pressed. I think it records the conversation if we answer through the app as well. It doesn't just record movement. You can't do the AI things like you can on Ring, setting up recognition of people or tripwires or marked areas outside the home for it to record video. It does not do that. The camera also is quite limited in the view that it has. So you mount it at sort of head height, 1.6 meters or so, and you'll get a head and shoulders view of the person at the front door. So unlike Ring or Ubiquity, it's not going to look at parcels that have been left on the doorstep, for example. So we're putting in a separate set of security cameras, which we're also then looking at how we use the AI in that to trigger actions in Loxone. The cameras that we're using have a relay output from them for those things like tripwire, personal vehicle recognition, which we can bring through a relay to Loxone. May even put a network video recorder in which has more AI functionality, so you could do fun things like recognizing a person and then announcing who it is on the driveway over the speakers if you want to do that, just for a bit of fun. So really nice device. So no cloud connection. That tree integration that it has is good. I 3D printed them out. I'll show you that one in a moment. And the integration that it has with Loxone, I'll touch on that a little bit, is really simple, super simple to set up. And as I say, you can automate other functionality, open door locks, these sorts of things. So overall, am I happy with it? Well, let's see. Let's have a look at the interface and see what we think. So let's have a look in Loxone config and see how this is set up. So I'm not going to go through the whole installation process because I've got this set up and working and didn't want to break it. As I said in my video, I'm finding my way around Loxone config. The basic configuration of all of this was done by Hugh at Thames Valley Automation, but with a little bit of help from him, I've been tweaking it and adding various functionality. So one of the confusion things that I found around this, looking in the interface, is when you first look, there's an option to add intercom, but I think that's for the version 1 intercom. So actually, this is a network device. So you would do a network device search, and it would just come up on the left hand side here. So obviously, I've already got it on the right hand side, and you can see where that is. The thing that I forgot to do with this is when you do a search and find something, you do need to save the device or save the config back into the mini server before you can see it and start configuring it. That confused me a little bit, that when you're going through this search process, your searching devices, you're adding them into Loxone config, but they don't apply and appear in the other parts of the interface until you've saved it down into the mini server itself. So obviously back everything up as always before you make any changes. We've added the intercom that you can see on the left here. So it's got an API connector, the bell button, and that motion sensor, the presence sensor that we can use to trigger other actions. And when you drag and drop that into the room, it comes out immediately with this intercom block with the intercom already connected on the way in and the connection out to the audio server without needing to do any configuration. And if you double click on that, you can configure which of the rooms the audio is played in. So we're not doing it in a couple of the bedrooms here, but you can choose where that's played. And the other configuration items within here, you obviously need to define the room. So that's another thing that is a good bit of advice as you're adding things. Make sure you would add the room as you add the device so that it appears where you want it to, and you can configure it easily. Then you can add up to 3 user interface actions. So I simply did an open garage door. You could do that anything that you've got a relay or a remote control to. I'm using the Horman Loxone integration from my garage door here. You can set the maximum bell duration. I've actually reduced that one. So this was, I think, set at something like 60 seconds. And what that meant was if people were pressing the doorbell multiple times, it wouldn't ring multiple times. So just in case we haven't heard it the first time, I've got that set to a little bit less for the moment. We can adjust the brightness of the button, and there's not a great deal else that you need to configure in here. So you've got things like the network address, the frame rate when you're connected over Wi-Fi, and the frame rate when you're connected over, potentially a 4G slower network connection. So really, really nice and simple to configure. I believe there's things that you can do as well to change the ringtone. You can probably change things for what time of day it comes on or doesn't. So really, really quite a slick and very, very simple to set up in Loxone config. Looking at the choices of where we could potentially install this, I was quite keen originally to install it on the vertical here between our door and the glass panel. This is a extruded aluminium door that's been powder coated, and I did talk to the window company, but unfortunately after they'd installed it, about getting a cable run down there, and they were quite anti doing that while they were installing it due to warranty issues and things like that. So maybe I should have asked for that beforehand, so that's something to keep in mind. Often the door frame is not going to be big enough to take the switch because it's sort of 75-80 millimeters square, I would guess, but we would have had enough room on there, which would have been a nice place to put it. So we've opted to put it up on the wall here. You can see it there mounted with the 3D printed mount that I've used rather than the Loxone one. I might change that for a proper Loxone one at some point, but it looks really quite smart installed up there, and that was a much easier place for me to get a network cable to. So just to show you how quick the intercom connects here, I just brought the tablet in from the house. The doorbell has obviously seen that there's somebody here, and you might be able to just see that the ring is lit up there. So if I press that, you'll see just how quickly it comes up instantly, pretty much. Rings the doorbell outside, rings the doorbell in the rooms that we've allocated inside the house. I can then choose to connect and talk. I'm not going to do that now because we'll get feedback. I'll show a video of that in a second. I can mute the bell, or I've actually set the integration up as we saw in config to open the garage door. So that was a really simple drag and drop integration for me to be able to do that. I could also do that on the front door. So really, really quite a nice, neat installation. And just to give you an idea of what that could be like, this is a dual mount that I got inside the house, so optionally outside you could have this NFC touch keypad mounted just below. So this is a keypad that you can just turn the alarm on and off. It's also got NFC, so you can have a tab to hold up against that to arm or disarm the alarm, unlock the front door, depending on what integration you've got. So if I draw this just to record this on my own and give a risk of feedback and things like that. So it's just showing you what quality video is like coming out the iPad. Also it works in your remote phone as well. So yeah, I think pretty good image quality, very fast connectivity from the application. So really just cut that. It absolutely like being after it. Quality setting is the video needs to be analysed on cloud, decided it's going to activate the ring or motion alert, then fire out the application on your phone. So it's pretty slow at comparison. So as an intercom, this is really good. So I hope you found that useful as a review of the product, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's quite expensive for what it is. I think justify the price of about half what it is, being more like £300 than £700. But that integration with Loxone, if you've invested the rest of that in your Loxone system, is pretty hard to beat. The negative sides, which I don't think I called out earlier on, this has no infrared illumination. So you do have to have lighting on an evening. If someone comes to the front door, this will light up, but you don't get a very good image of them. But because it's got that presence sensing, it's relatively easy to set it to trigger outdoor lighting to come on. So again, but that comes back to this point. This is not a security camera, right? We'll have other cameras around the property which have nighttime vision, infrared illumination, those sorts of things for security. As I said at the beginning, this does what it says on the tin. It's a good quality intercom, not a security camera. But so overall, really happy with it. If that's the sort of integration that you're looking for and you've invested in the Loxone ecosystem, I could very happily recommend it. It's easy to work with. The only challenges that I've seen with it are stories of some of the anthracite ones, and actually even comment on the Loxone site not to put the anthracite coloured version in direct sunlight. It can overheat. It'll shut down if it does that. I think I've even heard of some of the adhesive coming loose on the glass. So just something to be aware of where you're going to locate it. So I hope you found this video useful. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps me a great deal. We're at 1,400 subscribers already, and it's been great to have the interaction. I love to see your comments on what you think of the products I've reviewed, how I'm using them, and if that's helped you. Indeed, I've had email and phone conversations with a number of people that are going through their Loxone automation journey, looking at the technologies they should or shouldn't use. And I'm going to be doing a series of videos of living with Loxone. And one of the challenges that I found was there are very few, if any, end user reviews of Loxone and living with Loxone on the internet. There are quite a few videos of installers and people showing you the technology basics, or quite slick Loxone videos or installer videos that are walking around a property, really showing off the design rather than talking anything about how the automation works, what it's like to live with, did it deliver on what you hoped it would. So I'm going to be doing a series of videos continuing on this, looking at what's worked and what hasn't worked, placement of sensors, setting up the automation. We're pretty happy with everything that we've done so far, but there's a few bits that still need tweaking here and there along the way, and I'm learning my way around Loxone config as part of that. So thank you for all of you that have liked and subscribed so far. I hope you've been enjoying my videos. If you haven't, please do so, and thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it.